In the picturesque New South Wales Blue Mountains, Anthea Hammond is in the midst of what she calls a perfect storm. Her business, Scenic World, was already grappling with a skills shortage and a wet summer. And then came Omicron, wrecking the tourist attractions' peak period.
We have had more than 22% of our staff test positive or need to isolate as close contacts. And then in addition to those that actually have it, we have a whole nother set that are sick and go home and can't get a rat and they can't come back to work until they've tested negative, which has pushed us up to about 35% absenteeism for our staff. So it's been an incredible challenge to even keep our business open.
When 7:30 last spoke with Anthea in May, she was hopeful the reopening of Australia would help the business bounce back. But now she says the company is enduring a shadow lockdown and struggling to retain about 150 staff.
Coming into December, we were really optimistic that we were going to have a great summer holidays, and unfortunately that just hasn't quite been the case. This is our 5th school holidays in a row that we have had our visitation impacted. And so many operators that I've spoken to said, we need January. And we have now lost that. So this isn't only about the 2 weeks or 3 weeks that Omicron is impacting us. This is about the last 18 months and about having an industry at the end of this period that is here ready to welcome people back when we actually get out the other side.
Of course, a key difference for businesses now compared to last year and 2020 is the level of support, and there are many like Anthea who say free rapid antigen tests or RATs and more assistance from state and federal governments are required to help the tourism, hospitality and entertainment sectors ride out this wave.
Anything which consumers seem to see as optional, involves human contact, involves moving over distances, they're clearly voting with their feet, or in this case not, and choosing not to do it. This pandemic, and this latest episode is no exception, is really an issue that hits at sectors, stratas of society, particular geographies. It's no surprise to me that some parts of those are asking for some help.
There's been moments of thinking, well, if I don't have any chefs, I can't open. But we've come back.
Smaller businesses arguably have it harder than most. Claire Robertson reopened her cafe in the Yarra Valley outside Melbourne today after another COVID-induced closure. Due to supply chain shortages of some food, staff infections and a drop in customers, she says navigating the uncertainty now is more complicated than the long months of lockdown last year.
Every time we went back into lockdown, the JobKeeper started again. I didn't have to do anything, so I knew my staff were taken care of. And now we reopened and then closed within a couple of days. My expenses were through the roof and my wages. Every time we reopen, it's costly.
Of course, sparse supermarket shelves, worker shortages and a lack of rapid tests were not part of the national reopening plan. Nor was the possibility that authorities in a country like the United States would advise its citizens against travelling here. The government's critics say the health of the economy has been put above the health of the nation. But the Prime Minister's supporters argue Omicron has been a game changer and that as more workers get it and then recover, staffing levels will become more reliable. For example, the recently infected Deputy PM is now back on the road.
It's not good that you get it, but it actually helps with the immunity if you had it. And so all the time we're getting ourselves into a stronger position, some of it by default, some of it by planning.
This is all a mess, and it is a mess at the hands of a hopeless government being led by an incompetent Prime Minister.
In an effort to iron out problems in supply chain, several ideas have been discussed, including further cutting isolation periods for infectious people from 7 to 5 days, and possibly even allowing under 18s to drive forklifts.
Well, I can't believe I'm even having to say this, but children should not drive forklifts. It is dangerous. The fact that this idea is even in the Prime Minister's head is extremely concerning.
Both the forklift proposal, which the PM staff say came from an industry group, and the shorter isolation period were rejected at National Cabinet today. But licensing regulations for truck drivers will be reviewed.
It's all about getting the right balance between getting people back to work and not over-stressing your hospital system, which is of course under a lot of stress.
It's not true to say that no one could understand how bad Omicron would be. Last year we were telling the government, as were businesses and a lot of experts, that they needed RATS tests, even with Delta.
Mid-last year, businessman and GWS Giants chairman Tony Shepherd was among those urging governments to consider the importance of RAT tests to get Australia reopened.
Look, yeah, it's a bit disappointing. Now, there have been slip-ups and there has been things overlooked. That's inevitable in a crisis like this, which is a once-in-a-lifetime event. But I think the recovery's been pretty good.
As a federal election approaches, ministers are going to talk at length about the relative strength of the nation's economy, which has been supported by huge levels of government spending and very low interest rates. Data out today showed the unemployment rate dropped to 4.2% in December, its lowest level in more than 13 years. The result, however, comes with a caveat. It doesn't capture the full effect of Omicron, but some economists are optimistic the impact could be relatively short-lived.
The fundamentals for consumer spending, in my view, are really, really strong. The exit may be a little bit different from Delta, because in Delta we had enforced lockdowns, whereas this is partly a lack of workers and partly just a little bit of consumer hesitancy. But I think we will exit in really good shape.
Now, of course, many will remember there were also optimistic predictions of an economic boom late last year as the country reopened. And throughout this pandemic, forecasts have been proven wrong by unexpected events or new virus variants. For businesses in the most exposed sectors, a full recovery still seems a long way off.
We have our noses just above water and we will continue to survive. But my goodness, it has not been an easy 2 years, and it's at least another 12 months until we see visitation back to a point where we will be able to hold our heads above water properly.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.